I want to tell you about Texas radio and the big beat. It was a warm summer night with our song playing on the radio. Welcome to I Remember Radio. I'm Ken Levine, and my guest is Doug DeRoo, who is a legend among disc jockeys who know him. And Doug and I go back to Bakersfield. First of all, great to see you. And I have to say, and this is absolutely true, that when I first heard you, we were working together at Kern in Bakersfield. I was doing weekends and you were doing mornings. And I first heard you and I thought, like, oh my God, this guy has amazing talent. And the only other person that I've ever had that reaction to was Robin Williams.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you talk about amazing talent. I remember when you were Truck Ken Stevens.
Yeah. Levine is too Jewish for Ed Erner and folks in Bakersfield.
Oh, man. Yeah, it goes back a few years, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. We're talking like 1972. So
Yep.
you grew up in the Inland Empire. You grew up like Redlands, that area. How'd you get into radio?
I used to hang around KFXM and came in back in those days, and I used to just hang around until they threw me out. Eventually, I ended up working there. That's how you what you call honing your skills.
So how did you get to Bakersfield? Where were you before Bakersfield? Because you came to Bakersfield like fully polished.
Well, I was working in Corona at KREL, and I was playing oldies, and I got a phone call one day saying, hey, why don't you come up here and send us a tape? And next thing I knew, I was doing mornings for $450 a month.
Hey, I was making $2.50 an hour, man. So
yeah. Oh yeah, we were rolling in dough.
Oh man, we were able to go to the Happy Steak at least once a month.
And the IHOP.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ken knew all the hot spots in Bakersfield. That's so cool. Yeah.
But you know, you had such a great delivery, spontaneous, really funny. Who are some of the disc jockeys who influenced you growing up? Because like I said, I heard you and you just sounded fully polished.
Well, you and I both grew up on KHJ, KFWB, all the LA stuff. And we were fortunate to have some really good radio in San Bernardino. We had K-Men with Huckleberry Chuck, and at KFXM we had tons of people, and that thing was a boom chucker. It was all over the place. You could drive to LA and still hear KFXM.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I used to go out to Hemet. My grandparents lived in Hemet.
Yeah.
And I could get KFXM, could not get K-Men.
That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, let's talk about talent for a second. How about you?
Yeah, well, I was smart enough to get out of radio. The only way I could get any respect in radio was to get out of it.
Yeah, start writing TV shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I'll tell you the truth. The turning point for me, you were doing nights at K-Men and I was doing all nights at K-Men.
Yeah.
We were roommates. We could talk about that. But Jim Bain did the mornings. Lovely guy. Jim Baines at the time was in his early 30s and looked like Herschel Bernardi. He was he was already bald and he had a mustache. And the radio station was like in the middle of a cow pasture
Yeah.
in
The
San
caveman cow
Bernardino,
pasture. Yep.
and on the other side of the field was like a junior high school.
Yeah.
And so when kids would come to school, some of them would peel off, and there was a window at Cayman that
Uh-huh.
you could peer into the broadcast booth. So
Yeah.
all these 12 and 13-year-olds, all these pimple-faced adolescents are like staring in at the radio station, and
Yeah.
there's Jim Bain, who, like I said, was in his 30s and looked like he was 50, and
Yeah.
playing the hits. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I don't want that to be me. I don't want to be sitting in a cow pasture at 6:15 in the morning with
It's a
some.
Harry Chapin. It's a Harry Chapin song, Ken.
It is. It is totally. It is totally. And so that was kind of my my epiphany. But so you're working in Bakersfield. How did you get the job at Cayman, which must have been a real dream come true for you?
Well, I started doing weekends. I used to work all nights, weekends, and I had to run. The big deal was I got to play records until 4 a.m. That was like, oh wow! And then I had to run a bunch of religious tapes, and then I had to stay around and run American Top 40 from 9 to noon. So that was like a 12-hour shift.
Nice.
Yeah, that was 1969, I believe. Yeah, and Dave McCormick was the program director then. He showed me a lot of really cool stuff, and I was just fortunate to work there. Yeah, what a great guy. Miss that dude.
So you're in Bakersfield, and you went back to Cayman, which is when I worked with you in
Yeah.
1973. How'd that come about?
Well, I've always bounced around Southern California for some reason. It was Bakersfield, back to San Bernardino, LA for a couple of years, working with your pal Billy Pearl and Tom Greenlee at K100, and then I went back to Bakersfield. Yeah, we sat there looking out the window and going, "Wow, this is sunset in Cahuenga." Okay, I've seen enough. Yeah, yeah.
You didn't like working in Los Angeles?
To me, the radio was it was more fun in Bakersfield than it was in LA because LA was so structured. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Here, read this card and shut up. Go back to Bakersfield, you could do whatever you want.
I remember, again, when we were at Kern, you would be pissed off about something. They had you work a weekend or made you
Yeah.
re-record a commercial or something. You'd be
Oh, yeah.
pissed. And then you'd go to one of the trade papers and you'd see what jobs were out there. And like you'd send a tape to WQXI in Atlanta or WQAM
Yeah.
in Miami. And,
Yeah.
and then a week later, invariably they'd call and offer you the job. But by that point, you had cooled off and you decided to stay. But every place you ever applied, it seems like they called back and offered you a job.
Well, the one place I'm glad I never went to was Corpus Christi.
That was a good move.
Almost went to Corpus Christi. Nope. I'm a SoCal guy.
Were there any big stations that you really considered? Did you get any big offers like WRKO in Boston or anything like that?
Well, you worked at a couple of big ones. And
yes.
You want to tell them the Buddy Scott story about Charlie Van Dyke?
Okay.
Ken was doing the Piggy reports, the ag feature on Cayman when he was doing all nights. I'll set it up for you.
Okay.
And Buddy Scott was our program director at the time. And for some reason, you talk about pissed off, Ken just did not like Buddy Scott. So, what? Now, you finish it.
Well, first of all, Buddy Scott was from Iowa or Omaha or someplace, and he idolized WLS in Chicago.
Yeah.
WLS had this horrible jingle package, The Rock of Chicago. And
WLS.
Buddy went and bought the same package. We were the Rock of the Inland Empire. They were just the worst jingles ever. And it was April Fool's, okay? It was April 1st. So I decide to play from time to time. I would swap out a WLS jingle and play it. And Buddy used to like get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought, well, and I didn't know he was listening or anything. I didn't know he was pissed, but he was ready to come down to the station and fire me.
Oh yeah.
But I thought, well, the way to top off this bit was I would call Charlie Van Dyke, who was the morning man at WLS, and I would call him and get him on the air and talk about it. And Charlie said, great, well, we'll do a simulcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So now Buddy is driving to the station to fire me, and all of a sudden he hears Charlie Van Dyke saying, this is WLS, and K-Man in San Bernardino is now on WLS and everything. And Buddy practically had an orgasm. He just couldn't believe that I had Charlie Van Dyke on the air at K-Man. And he came down to the city. He like bought me breakfast. He was so thrilled. He went from literally coming down to the station to fire me to buying me breakfast.
Yeah. Now it's time for the piggy reports.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I used to, when I did all nights, I had to do Saturday night, Sunday, which same thing, from 4 to 6, I'd have to play these religious tapes. And there was one of these preachers who was somewhat anti-Semitic. And I would play his thing because they would pay the station to run these things. Station made money off of these things. I would just play it at the wrong speed.
I'll never forget what you did at Kern when daylight savings time kicked in. You just you taped an hour of your show, and when it was time to turn the clock back, you just ran the same show again for an hour.
Exactly. Why not?
Yeah. Now, we had a lot of fun. Darn it.
Do you remember we had a running competition?
Yeah.
At the time, the song "Tie Yellow Ribbon" by Dawn was a big hit. So
I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up.
We had a competition to see who could come up with more one-liners for "Tie Yellow Ribbon."
You killed me, man. You killed me.
Yeah, but I was getting to the point where I was equating yellow ribbon with urine and stuff. I was like, okay. These were not the best lines.
Oh, I'm sure you wrote them all down. No, you didn't.
No, I never wrote down anything, and neither did you, as I recall. You never really prepared.
We didn't have to.
No.
Here, read this card. No, thanks. I think I'll wing it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So you went back to Bakersfield because you had all that freedom, and you also got into television.
Yeah, I did that for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah, I did morning traffic at Channel 23. That was fun. But before that, I was flying in an airplane. I was out of work. They called me up and said, "You want to go to work for Westwood One doing traffic?" And so I went, "I'm out of work. I'll do anything, you know?" And so every morning we would get into a Cessna and fly around town for about, did a big figure eight around Bakersfield for about 2 hours. And I had a little two-way radio sitting in the back. And I did that for several months, and then all of a sudden, Channel 23 calls up and they go, "We're putting a camera in on Monday, and you get to do traffic on Channel 23." They were just firing up a morning show, which they hadn't had before. Channel 17, Channel 29 had one, but 23 for some reason was just running the network. And next thing I knew, they put this big piece of cardboard with a bunch of cars in it. And so I did that for 2 hours. Then I got in the airplane. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. We had a lot of fun doing that. We were out there at the airport, which I don't know whether you remember Meadows Field or not, but
I don't think I was ever at Meadows Field. I did not fly into Bakersfield. I drove my 66 Mustang where the radiator blew every other month going over the grapevine.
Oh man, those were the days, dude.
And Thule fog. They still get that Thule fog in Bakersfield?
Not so much anymore. When it rains real good, we still get it, but there's more concrete now than there was when you and I were working here.
So you were last time I saw you, which was a number of years ago when I drove up to Bakersfield to hang out with you. You were working at a station doing mornings. You had been there for a long time, and you're with a very pretty co-host.
Oh, Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you at that station? It seems like you're kind of an institution there.
Well, we did KGFM for about 10 years together. And it was kind of chicken rock. Can you use that term anymore? Yeah. But it was, sorry, that's too loud. We can't play that. Okay. But yeah, I did mornings on KGFM for about 10 years with her. And that was kind of fun. I just kind of settled in here, Ken. And at 4:30 in the morning, get up and get going, And it's hard to explain.
Did you like reach a point where you said, that's it, I'm settled, this is where I'm living? Or, were there times when you considered, going back home to San Bernardino? Or
I thought about that, but what's happened over the last few years is radio is kind of evaporated. It's just a darn shame. They don't let us do this stuff anymore.
No, they don't.
I would imagine if somebody got an air check from Ken Levine they'd go, we can't possibly put this dude on the air. Same.
Look, they weren't letting me do what I did when they were letting people do it.
That's true. But we managed to pull it off, though, huh?
We did, and we got great ratings.
Yes, that's the weird thing. It's like, stop yelling. We're getting points. At one time, I think you had the highest weekend shares in Bakersfield ever.
Yeah, I had a 50 share. Yeah. I defy any DJ to get a 50 share now in Bakersfield.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
That's so great. Oh, man.
Remember at the time, this was spring 1972, and KAFY, KAFY, with a big signal at 55, they were like the big number one station. And Turn at 1410 was always number two. And then
1,000 watts.
And Johnny Mitchell became the program director. And we streamlined it, and we had a whole lot more fun. And I remember the book came out in the summer, and we killed them.
Oh yeah.
And KAFY had a big promotion that night at Magic Mountain. So we all went. Remember that? We all went to just lord it over them that we're now number one.
That was great. We used to call it the Pig 55.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't stand it. They couldn't stand it when we beat them. And
Yeah.
I remember sitting in Ed Erner's office. He was the
He was a
GM.
general manager. Yeah.
Yeah, at Current, and he was crying looking at the ratings. He was so happy. He was crying. Yeah, look what you guys did. That was great.
For my
Yeah.
$2.50 an hour. And I was there for a year, and I left to become a board op at KABC KLOS,
Yeah, yeah. You were.
making like, good LA money
Yeah.
as opposed to $2.50. So I quit Kern, and 2 weeks later the book comes out, and I've got this 50 share, and Ed Erner is calling saying, we'll give you $3.50 an hour. We'll give you $4 an hour. It's like, sorry, pal.
Oh,
Sorry,
oh,
pal.
yeah, yeah. You were busy slip queuing vinyl at KLOS.
Yeah,
I,
exactly.
you know, I could never figure out how that combination worked. You were working with B. Mitchell Reed and Jim Patton.
Yep. God bless Jim Patton. He
Oh
passed
yeah,
away. Yeah, you got a great memory. Yeah. JJ Jackson and
yeah,
Damien and
yeah,
Mark Driscoll and Shauna.
yeah. You were well. We were lucky enough to work at. Well, you were working in L.A. when it was the best place to be. Yeah,
Well, I worked there like several times.
yeah.
The most fun I had was at 10Q.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that was you would have loved 10Q. You would have come back to LA for 10Q because
Well, that
we
place
had
was
a
noisy.
tremendous amount of freedom. It was me, there was the real Don Steele, Rich Brother Robin,
Willie
Dave
B.
Conley, Willie B. I mean, we
Oh,
had we had a dynamite lineup,
that was a
and we
really noisy radio station.
yeah, we had a lot of fun. We gave KHJ a run for their money. See, here's the thing about my radio career. I was always on the number two rocker. Okay. There were always two competing rock stations in the market. And in San Francisco, there was KFRC and I was on KYA. And in Detroit, there was CKLW and I was on WDRQ. And in New York, there's WABC and I'm on WXLO. So, and it's the same thing in LA where there's KHJ and I'm on 10Q. And then before that, K100.
Oh man, yeah. That 10Q was in a funeral parlor, wasn't it?
Yes, it was an abandoned mortuary on
Yeah,
Western Avenue. And there was like this courtyard in the center,
yeah,
which is basically where they would hoist the coffins up.
yeah. That big elevator.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my god. Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's you talk about good vibes for rock and roll. That
Oh,
was an abandoned mortuary on Western.
all you had to do was pull up to that building, and if Steele was on the air, you could hear it down the block
Oh
because
yeah.
he couldn't hear anything.
When I was with him at K100 in 1974, we were in now, I guess that's where you were too.
Yeah.
We were at Cahuenga and Sunset in what is
Uh-huh.
now the CNN building.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
And we were like on the 14th floor, something like that.
Yeah.
And our booth looked out over Sunset and Hollywood. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the
the
Cinerama
real
Dome was right out the window.
right out the
Yeah.
window. But
Yeah.
the real Don Steele kept his headphones up so fucking loud, and he kept the speakers up so loud that the law firm underneath us sued. Okay. So they moved the studio to avoid the lawsuit, they moved the studio. And so now we were on Cahuenga and we were looking into the Cinerama Dome parking lot and all these homeless guys sitting on the street. That became our new studio because Steele kept the thing so loud.
Yeah, he was a noisy guy. What a great jock, though, too. You know, all those guys are slowly disappearing, seems like, you know, and
sure.
I tell you
well,
what,
we're talking 50,
50
years ago, 40,
yeah.
50 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so crazy. I keep thinking about all the really good radio. You know, if you and I tomorrow could go down there and make a whole bunch of noise and have some fun, and people wouldn't know what hit them.
No, that's true. They think we were from Mars. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Nowadays, yeah, that's so great. Anyway, yeah, I'm working on the David Letterman thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at that beard, and you've gone from Marty Feldman to David Letterman in 40 short years.
Yeah, how does that happen? Oh well, I don't know. Anyway,
so what would you like to do now?
Right now, I think I'm interested in purchasing a golf cart.
I know you broke your leg.
Oh yeah, that was terrible. Yeah, it's I broke it in two places, and I just tripped over a folding chair. Don't do that.
Don't tell people that. Tell them you were playing for the Rams, and it was this ghastly Joe Theismann type injury.
It was a broken tackle. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was on the punt return team. Oh man. Yeah.
Radio has kind of moved on to podcasts and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Why don't you do a podcast?
I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I'll get around to it, I think. You should do one too.
I do one. I've been doing one for 4 years.
Oh, well, you beat the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Hollywood and Levine.
Oh, I saw that the other day. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty snappy title.
Thank you. But it's like you were saying, it's really sad because the radio that we loved and we grew up with is no longer around. And, when we were starting out, if you were a creative person, radio was a viable choice for expressing your creativity. You wanted to get into radio, and there were every radio station, even tiny ones, had live announcers, and you learned your craft. It's like, God knows how terrible I must have been on Kern, but you get better and you learn your craft and you move up. There's no training ground anymore.
We grew up on good stuff.
Yeah.
And
there's no training ground, and there's no local stations. And if you're 17, 18 years old today, you have no interest in going into radio. You're video and various platforms and making your own movies on iPhones and stuff. And it's really a shame because radio was wonderful, and it was a shared experience. It was American graffiti.
Yeah, it was. It really was. We had everything from Wolfman Jack to KMPC and everything in between. San Bernardino was kind of interesting because all of a sudden it kind of blossomed. We had two stations. And then we had KCKC. We had One Country, two rock and roll stations, and then KDUO, which was the first place I ever got a job at. Actually, it was beautiful music, with tapemation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah. Working for a guy named Larry Shields. And he put me on weekends, and you had to read news, weather, sports at the bottom of the hour, and the rest of the time you poked a button, and these, and the trick was to make sure that the tape recorders were loaded. Well, all of a sudden, if you heard in the back going flap, 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 time to go change a reel. You know, kids today can't even relate to that.
No, no. Yeah,
Anyway.
and we always had to read news on various
Oh,
stations.
yeah.
At Cayman, I had to read news, doing the all-night show, and you would just rip and read. And my favorite rip and read news story is actually a Cayman story. It's Russ O'Hara, when Russ O'Hara was there. So, it's called Rip and Read because, we're playing records and then we go, oh, Christ, we got to do news. And you go into the newsroom and you just rip off the teletype and you go on the air and do the news, but you haven't pre-read it. You're reading it completely cold.
Yeah.
So Russ O'Hara is reading this newscast and he comes to a story where the president of Bolivia dies. And he looks and it's like some long name that he can't pronounce. So he gets around it by going, well, today the president of Bolivia died. His name is being withheld until the next of kin can be notified. Very smooth.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Very smooth.
Well, we weren't without our share of blunders either.
Yeah. Well, you would also try to, I remember I had to read news sometimes at Kern, and you would come in and try to crack me up.
Yeah.
You'd like walk into the booth and like hand me your shoe or some stupid thing like that.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I had to read a PSA one time, a public service announcement. And I looked at the thing and world-renowned pianist Vladimir Horowitz will appear in Piano Rectal tomorrow from 7 to 9. This can't be right. And you just kind of read what goes.
Yeah. Remember too that if a music act was playing in Bakersfield, that they would, from time to time, they would be dragged to the station.
Oh, yeah.
To do an interview. And I had to do an interview once with Rick Nelson. This was when Garden Party was a hit.
Yeah.
And he was so depressed that his career had sunk to where he's playing Bakersfield.
Yeah.
That it was just this terrible, surly interview.
Oh yeah, he wasn't a happy camper.
No, but I'd be on the air and they'd tap on the glass and they'd say, oh yeah, I got BB King outside. Why don't you interview BB King? Like, what? Okay. Barry Maguire, The Eve of Destruction. By the time they came to Bakersfield, it's like, the Beatles were not adding Bakersfield to their West Coast tour.
No.
So, you got all these guys like Barry Maguire,
We had, James Brown showed up all the time though.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he was here like every year.
Well, good drugs in Bakersfield.
Come to the Civic Auditorium. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we had a lot of bands roll through town. War was another one.
Mm-hmm.
About time Slipping Into Darkness came out. And who else? Oh my gosh. Too numerous to mention there, Ken.
Yeah. Well, it was certainly a big country western town because of Cuz which was
Yeah.
owned by Buck Owens, who lived in Bakersfield. So
Still
he
is.
kind of put Bakersfield on the country western map.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to work with that guy for about 4 or 5 years.
And what was he like?
He was a sweetheart. He was a really nice guy. Whenever we had a ratings party, he'd go, everybody show up at Pizzaville or I'm buying, and his office was right next door to mine. And I was I was a music director back then. And so you could, I had a stereo system in there that you could hear through the walls. And Buck would come in and go, what are you playing? It didn't matter whether it was country or rock and roll. He was always interested in stuff like that. And yeah, what a sweet guy. I'll tell you a Buck Owens story if you got enough time. There was a homeless guy digging around in the dumpster out in back of the radio station. And Buck pulls in. He goes, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm looking for food. He goes, you hang on. So he drives down, buys about a 10-pound thing of steak and a 12-pack of Budweiser. And he comes back, hands the guy all this food and $100. He goes, don't ever tell anybody I did this.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of dude he was. Yeah.
So you did country radio as well, huh?
I worked at K-Guy in Palm Desert.
When was this?
69 or 70, I think. Yeah. Yeah. That radio station was out in the middle of nowhere, as a lot of them were. But this thing was on an anthill. Turns out it was a giant anthill. And it was 12:30 a.m., 12:30, KGUY. And you used to have to go out there when the signal started fading. It didn't get into Palm Springs, so you had to go out there and turn the sprinklers on and water the radials. Yeah, they got to soak the ground here so we can get into Palm Springs. There was a memo that said that. Don't forget to turn the sprinklers on. Yeah. Yeah.
Great stories. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how much power could that station have at 12:30 if there was a station in Los Angeles at 12:30 at KGFJ?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, that thing barely crept into Palm Springs. It was probably 1,000 watts, maybe 1,000 watts on a good day, with a wind blowing right to left from center field. Let's talk about your baseball career.
Well, I worked on a station very similar to that when I broadcast for Syracuse, my first year in the minor leagues. We were on a station that was so bad that when we would have a power change at like 8:15, we'd say goodbye to all of our fans listening on the third base side of the diamond. Okay, we would lose the left field grandstands. That's how bad the power was on that station. Yeah,
that's so cool. That's really cool. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
we were in Denver calling a game one night, my partner and I, and it was one of those marathons, one of those 14-inning games.
Yeah.
So it's now like 1:30 in the morning in Denver. And so it's like 3:30 in the morning in Syracuse. And like, no one's listening. And my broadcast partner, Dan Hord, was on. And Dan says, I wonder how many people are listening back home. He said, tell you what, if you're listening, call the station. He gave the phone number. And we'll give you free tickets. And I'm going, oh no, Dan, don't do this. No, don't do this. Don't do this. Nobody called. Nobody called.
Crickets.
So the game ends in about 20 minutes later. And now we have to do like a half-hour post-game show.
Oh, great. I
said, Dan, let's do this post-game show in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
No one's listening. What are we doing? What are we doing? Here's the score. We lost six
That's
to
it.
five in 14 innings. Back after this. Play the spot, come back. Yeah, there's a lot of scores. You don't care about them. Tell you about
Yeah.
tomorrow after this. Another spot, came back to, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. That was it. Our half-hour post-game show lasted like 4.5 minutes, but nobody was listening.
That's crazy. I remember you used to sit there at Dodger Stadium practicing in the stands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun.
Yeah, people thought it was nuts.
Well, but
I was,
they started listening, and they started sitting closer and closer together.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe this guy's got something going. No, we got Vin Scully down there. Come on. No, but this guy might be good. Yeah.
I got it. At one point, there was a reporter for the Herald Examiner, columnist, a sports columnist named Diane K. Shaw. And she had heard about me going up to the stands. So she called and said she wants to do a story about me. And I said, just to have somebody do a story and make ass fun of this idiot sitting up in the stands, no, thank you. And she says, no, I think it's a great story and you're following your passion and blah, 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 blah. And she says, can I just sit with you while you do the game? So like, okay. So she came down doing the game. And after the game, she said, can I have the tape so that I can transcribe some of these things for the article? Okay. So 2 days later, this article comes out in the Herald Examiner, and it did not endear me to Ross Porter because the article starts off by saying the second best baseball announcer in Los Angeles is sitting up in the stands. And then it was a very complimentary piece, and there were like transcriptions of stuff I said. Ross and I wound up becoming pretty good friends, but that was kind of shaky there. It's like, it's not my fault.
There's that kid sitting in the stands, and he's That's great. That's so great. Oh.
Did you ever go to any of those Bakersfield games? That stadium was supposed to be the worst stadium in minor league baseball.
It still is, and it's still going. Sam Lynn Ballpark in Bakersfield. I called a couple of Bakersfield Dodger games with Ron Feynman, and I had a blast doing that.
You've pretty much done everything.
I think I've worked at every radio station in town since '72. Yeah.
Do people recognize you?
Not anymore, not with this beard.
Right. Is that one of the reasons why you grew the beard?
Yeah. I had a lady in the store the other day going, hey, you're that old radio guy. Okay. Yeah.
I imagine when they hear your voice.
Well, yeah. Boy, I tell you what, calling baseball for a sec, baseball was great because, well, he's back to the warning track. He would have caught it had he made it. It's like, because you couldn't see around the corner. So you didn't have any idea where the ball went.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the magic of Sam Lynn Ballpark. Yeah, it's still there. And, for years, they've been trying to turn that thing around so that the sun doesn't hit you in the face in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
This thing was built completely wrong. Well, yeah, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Yeah. And they still haven't gotten around to fixing it. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, 40 years ago it was bad.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Do you still have a lot of tapes of your shows?
I lost them all. And our mutual buddy Jim Diamond sent me some stuff the other day. He burned them onto CDs, and as a matter of fact, we got to get you that Came In reunion tape. Yeah, that was that was that was gold.
Were you there for that for the
Yeah,
K-Men reunion?
yeah, 97. Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yeah. It was you and me were on the air together with Johnny Helm and forget who else and Bruce Chandler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's what I
uh,
remember about the K-Men reunion, because I went there with Ron Jacobs.
yeah. You pulled up in
Okay.
that limo. Yeah,
Uh, I went with Ron Jacobs.
yeah,
And so we were, doing these shows. And the problem is that San Bernardino is such a transient area
yeah.
that it's not like people in Los Angeles who grew up listening to a radio station. 90% of the people in San Bernardino in 1997 didn't live there in
No, no,
1973 and everything.
you're right. Yeah.
And so they had this big dinner for all
Uh-huh.
the listeners to come to some
Well,
crappy Italian restaurant.
in Redlands. Yeah,
And we show up. Yeah, we had to drive for like 20 minutes. And
yeah.
we show up and it's like, there's nobody there. There's nobody there. There's maybe 15, 20 people,
Yeah.
and they've rented out this whole restaurant. There's like this big dance floor and,
Oh, yeah,
you
it was
know,
huge. Yeah, yeah.
and it's like, there was like nobody there. It was
Yeah.
very depressing. And I remember getting in the car, driving home with Ron Jacobs, who was the original program director of K-Men and became the program
Mhm.
director of
The
KHJ.
architect. Yeah.
Yep. But Ron Jacobs never, I don't think even when he slept that he stopped talking. Okay, Ron Jacobs talked nonstop, mile a minute. I don't know. Here's what we're gonna do, man. You're gonna go here. You're going to. It's like that was Ron Jacobs. You get on
I
a
got
phone call with Ron Jacobs for an hour, and
oh yeah.
and you wanted to just crawl into a hole afterwards.
I I
But
had
we were in the car driving home for like a half hour. Neither of us said anything. Neither of us said a word. And finally, Ron just went, fuck.
I had about a 1 year relationship with him just before he died. I called him out of the blue. I just said, hey, and we were talking radio, like you were saying, but he would in Hawaii, he would call at like 4 o'clock in the morning and go, "What are you doing?" I was sleeping. But he would go for hours. You're right. He would go for hours. And what a beautiful dude.
Yeah.
He was a lot of fun. Man, I used to ask him all sorts of questions about K-Men and KMAK, Fresno, and yeah, that Robert W. Morgan. What a pain in the butt. What a great jock though. Yeah.
Who are you still friendly with in terms of disc jockeys and other radio people? Who do you keep up with?
Well, I've still got a few of them floating around here, the ones that haven't croaked, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But we lost a lot of them the last year or two. You know, Jim Carson and I still talk to each other.
There you
And
go.
I just got back. Jim Carson was the original. Hi, I'm Jim Carson. It's 3:15. Call letters here. And everything's. He was like a duck, man. It just water just slid off him. You know. I go, how did you keep that job for so long? He goes, don't cause trouble. uh, yeah, Jim and Jay Coffey and Bruce, all the K-Earth guys, and yeah, I I I got to reconnect with a lot of them because I was like I was off of Facebook for a long time because I didn't have this darn thing going. But yeah, all the old LA guys.
Well, we miss you. Like I said, I've worked with a lot of disc jockeys. I've been very lucky to work major market stations,
Yeah.
and man, I put you up there with Morgan and Steele and some of the best jocks that I ever worked with
Well, don't sell
by
yourself
far.
short. Don't sell yourself too short. You're right up there too. As long as we're passing out compliments, I mean, you've had a really cool career, and I want to see that podcast.
Well, it's a podcast, so it's on radio again. Hollywood and Levine. I'll use this moment to plug it again.
Yeah,
and I have radio people on from time to time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I had Charlie Van Dyke was on, and Shotgun Tom Kelly, and I've had a couple of disc jockeys.
Now it's time for the Piggy Report. Charlie, take it away. Oh, man.
Yeah. Charlie and I often, get confused because we have the same voice.
That's right, Ken. Oh, man.
Well, Doug, this has really been great. It's been fun catching up with you, and I hope to see you in person soon. Good luck with that leg. I mean, football season is a couple of months away. You should be ready to go by camp, and stay well, bud.
Hey, it's been a pleasure, Ken.
Been a pleasure with you. Thanks, Doug.
Take care.
It was a warm summer